So, it was a sunny day in June, hot as ever, and I was working a 10-hour shift. It was really slow that day, and what better to do than scroll through TikTok and Twitter while randomly cleaning to make it look like I'm doing something. Anyway, I came across a trailer for Season 3 of Squid Game, and it's a show I've liked for a while now, so what better to do than watch it? I watched the trailer and then began to scroll through my feed to find hundreds of theories of what might happen in the next season. During my shift, I began to connect some dots and take notes on my phone as I went, till I reached the point where I came up with a ton of my own theories. It was the fastest double of my life. That night, I went straight upstairs and edited all the clips together from both the teaser and the trailer into one big blob to try and get the timeline correct. There's a lot in this video I want to cover, so I'm just going to go in what I think is chronological order in the trailers. The first thing we see is a box being carried out by the pink soldiers. This is the same one we saw in an Instagram post from the Squid Game account on January 30th of this year. We find out in the teaser that it's Gi-hun. Still alive, obviously. This is when the story gets back into gear. Gi-hun is back in the games, but after all that's happened, he'd lost his motivation. Gi-hun begins to yell and ask the guards why they didn't kill him. Then afterward, we see Gi-hun take a gun from one of the guards and point it at his head, wanting them to shoot him. Because after all, mostly everyone died in the mission except for him. They shot and killed his bae and his bestie. So why did they keep him alive? This attempt had him dragged away by the guards. I'd imagine this has something to do with the consent form, because in Clause 1 it states a player is not allowed to stop playing. So I think they would either have to die by the games, by the hands of another player, or like Player 69, kill themselves of their own volition, something they can't control. Also, I can imagine the VIPs wouldn't be happy if the only returning player died because he shot himself, and I wouldn't be surprised if the game makers rigged the game so Gi-hun would be able to make it to the finals again. This is all we got from the beginning, until we jump straight into the games, but I'd imagine they have the revote and vote to stay back in the games. But before I move on to the new games, I have to answer a few questions. What are the games in Season 3 going to be, and how are they going to be played? The first game we're shown in the trailer is pretty simple to explain. The game is Jump Rope, the game that I and most people watching the show in this video probably know and has played as a kid, but with a twist. We are shown that the players are jumping on train tracks. We also know that there is a light that goes on and off while the players are jumping, and a song that plays in the background. I think this game is going to be similar to Mingle or Red Light, Green Light in the sense that when the light is green, the players have to jump on the rope and have fun playing on the tracks, like you do when you're a kid, or just what I did as a kid for some reason. But once the light turns red, the rope stops moving, and you have a few seconds to get off the track before a train or something else causes the players to die. I don't think there's actually going to be a train pushing the players off the tracks, since we haven't seen anything like that before. But I think if they don't get off the tracks in time, they're going to be hit by the rope or shot by one of the soldiers. The reason I think that there's going to be a timed thing in this is we see a clip of Gi-hun helping the players off the tracks and conducting them like he did in Red Light, Green Light. We see him frantically yelling and telling them to get off the tracks, so I'd assume there's some stakes in getting on and off the tracks. Okay, the next game is a little bit more complicated. First, we are shown the players going up to a gumball machine and getting either a blue or a red ball. This determines what team they're going to be on and helps the X's and the O's from teaming up during the game. Not that it was much of a problem in the six-legged pentathlon, seeing as though despite their different views on the games, the X's and O's teamed up. It was mostly when the tie vote hit that the X's and O's started splitting up, but they need to be split into even teams, so the gumball machine just picks it for them. Then we are shown the pink soldiers giving them boxes. We know from the many photos posted on Instagram and the shots of them wearing the keys around their neck in the trailer that the blue team gets these red keys. I don't really know what the red team gets. I know they're given boxes. I've heard some theories that the red team gets knives and has to kill the blue players with those in order to get their own key, but we haven't seen any knives in the trailer or anything like that, and I think that's just a theory that somebody came up with. I think it would make more sense if the red team didn't get anything to fight with to get the key. Similar to how a lot of these people in the game started life, it's all up to luck whether you get to be in the poor or wealthy family, the same way it's up to chance whether or not you get a key in the game. Or they just are given knives and the game makers want them to kill each other. I got no idea. So we're shown a bunch of shots of the course maze thing. We see that the red and blue teams are separated to different starting points after given their boxes. So here's how I think the game works. Picture this. You're a kid. You're hanging out with your friends or just playing on your own. You're having so much fun that you lose track of time. The sun goes down, the streetlights come on, and you're left alone in the darkness, having to make your way home all on your own. I grew up in a city where the streets weren't too safe at night like a lot of places, and there were a lot of cases of kids not making it back home or their friends killing them on the streets, so I'd imagine this game is meant to simulate that distinct, nostalgic sense of fear. the fear that you're not gonna make it home. All you have is your house key, but you forgot your way home. All the streets look the same and you're not sure what looks familiar and what doesn't because of how dark it is. You now just have to rely on your instincts to make it home. True, this isn't a kid's game, it's more of an experience you'd have when you were a kid. At least I wasn't forced to jump or kill kids for a house key when I was a kid, but I don't know, maybe I just didn't get out much. Maybe I gotta live a little more for that daycare street cred, but I'm pretty sure this is meant to replicate a feeling. So I think both teams have to make it to their home or safe room to complete the game. The blue team gets the key, but the red team has to take a key from someone on the blue team in order to get to their safe room. And the blue team has to defend themselves and their key while trying to get home. A key detail I paid most attention to when trying to put these clips into order was their hair, injury, clothes, and lighting of the rooms. When the room was bluer toned and Gi-hun's hair was fluffier and less sweaty and full of blood, and they were wearing their colored vests, I put the clips into the house game category, which is what I'm calling the game with keys. I don't know, it has a better ring to it than challenge where you have to make your way home through the night with or without a key, try not to get killed on the way, and maybe you don't have a key and maybe you're trying to steal it from somebody else, which is weird because then you'd be breaking into somebody's house, which wouldn't help you get home at all. Game? So I'm gonna call it house game for short. So when the colors are more pink and the characters don't look like as washed up and beat up, I know it's jump rope. At first I really thought the game was jump rope at first and didn't question it because they showed it to us right at the end of season 2. But I noticed some inconsistencies in the clips when I started putting them in order, which brings me to
Jun-hee picture analysis.
So at the end of the teaser we got a month ago, as of recording this, we see Jun-hee crying. Yes, the background is blurred, but we can see the colors in the background line up with the doll's legs and the shades of the house behind it. Because of this, we can assume they're playing the jump rope game, maybe even actively jumping. Little side note, if you didn't know, pregnant people aren't really supposed to jump. Well, they can, but in my research I found that it's really painful and could cause them issues medically. Personally, I've never been pregnant. Hopefully never will be. But I think it's a huge concern when it comes to her performance in the game. And her health. I care for her. But some people have speculated she's between 7 and 8 months pregnant, which means she'd be in her 3rd trimester. But that number's never been confirmed, but they have said that her due date is soon, so I'd assume she's in her 3rd trimester. We saw in Red Light Green Light that she had trouble making it through the game because of the stress and physical activity, and ever since then, people like Gi-hun and In-ho that have found out that she's pregnant have been looking out for her during the physical parts of the game. So all of this has been heavily implying that she's in danger during this game. Thankfully, jumping cannot put you into early labor, like the trailer seems to suggest by the baby crying at the end, but she's in high risk of losing this game. Anyways, back to what I was saying. We see her crying in the most recent trailer as Myung-gi, or Player 333, tells her that she can't give up because she's pregnant. After all, she doesn't have much of a choice, which is a theme of the series. She either tries to complete the game and probably causes permanent damage to herself and the baby, or she gives up being shot. At least if she tries jumping rope, then there's a chance she could survive. Just like how people are choosing to stay in this game because
해야지 그럼. 나가면 뭐가 달라? 어차피 나가도 생 지옥이야, 이 씨발.
난 어차피 집도 없어. 여기서 희망이라도 있지. 나가면 아무것도 없어.
it doesn't seem like the game makers are going to be fair and lenient toward her like they did to Neo in season 1, because no one wanted to play marbles with her. It didn't seem fair to them that she should die just because no one wanted to play with her. The same could hopefully be true for Jun-hee because she's pregnant. Anyways, back to my main point. Do you see this cut that appears on her face? It's the same one that you see in this clip with the rainbow background during the house game. But if you look at the scene where she's choosing her team, you can tell that she doesn't have the cut. And when I went back to look at season 2 to see if it was an inconsistency in one scene, and she already had the cut before the game, the last time you see a close-up of Jun-hee in season 2 is during the scene where Gi-hun and his team are looking for people to confront the frontman. And as you can see, still no cut. This could only mean that she got the cut during the house game. Therefore, the house game is first. This we also see slightly in the blood on Gi-hun's head. When we first see him after they open the box, there's a little blood on the side of his head, probably from knocking him out or something since we see him waking up. And we still see the same amount of blood while he's playing the house game. But for a brief shot in the jump rope game, we see that there's significantly more blood on his head. Probably from fighting in the house game, but this again can be an inconsistency, but it's all the evidence we currently have.
Gi-hun choking the shaman.
The next thing we're shown is Gi-hun handcuffed to one of the beds with his right hand. In the first shot, we see the shaman, aka player 444, taunting Gi-hun with her followers behind her. She's probably making fun of him about his failed raid and saying something about how it's all been predetermined and he shouldn't tamper with his own future like she did in the other scene.
이들이 죽을 곳과 시간은 태어날 때부터 천지신명께서 정하시는 것이야.
From her perspective, this is just some random guy who showed up in this random game, telling everyone he's won these games and that he's played these games before. But he's only been right about red light, green light. What if he just got a tip-off from one of the soldiers when he first got here, or was a plant in the game? Or maybe she thinks that Gi-hun is just seeking attention in order to scare people so he could win the games. Cause in her eyes, why would somebody who hypothetically won 4.5 billion won, or over $3.4 million, need to come back to this horrible place? This moment has haunted him for 2 long years, and has significantly changed him as a person. I mean, just look at the difference between the naive, open-minded Gi-hun in Season 1 to the restless, vengeful Gi-hun we see in Season 2. Not only is he beating himself up to the point where he wanted to end his own life, but now some stranger is saying he has no idea what he's talking about and caused his friends' deaths. We can see how much everything he's been through changed him. Since the beginning, Gi-hun has held a strong moral conviction against killing or harming others. It took until Sung-woo, one of his closest childhood friends, pushed a man to his death in Glass Bridge that he even considered killing another person in this game. To Gi-hun, sacrificing another person to save his own life, even to protect his friends, was unfathomable. Gi-hun would have rather died himself than cause someone else's suffering, which is the exact reason he tells Gi-hun he killed Sae-byuk. Sung-woo knew what a good person Gi-hun was, and wouldn't let their vote to leave the game stop him from going home with that money. But in the end, despite winning the fight against Sung-woo, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Gi-hun saw the humanity in Sung-woo, still remembering the boy who used to play Squid Game with him till their mothers called them home. He looked beyond Sung-woo's mistakes, longing for the return of his old friend that was worth so much more to him than any amount of cash. But Sung-woo decided to kill himself in the end, so...
More important, weed or us?
Weed!
Man, he didn't even think about it.
So in all, Gi-hun choking the shaman without much hesitation is yet another sign that the Gi-hun we once knew is slowly becoming the way that Il-nam wanted him to be.
The house game. Ooh, we love houses.
The next clip shows the players walking up the stairs to what I think is after the next vote, and shocker, the majority votes to stay. But if you look closely at the shot, you see a person limping up the stairs. And you can clearly see that's our broless, holeless, very high Namgu, who changed his vote to X after Thanos' death. When the players finally make their way to the next area, we see the players choosing their teams by using the gumball machine I talked about earlier. So here's what the team split is. The blue team consists of Daeho, Hyunju, Young-sik originally, the shaman, and conveniently all of her followers, and the loud guy, player 100. The red team consists of Gi-eum-ja, Namgu, Min-soo, Myung-gi, Jun-hee originally, and last but not least, Gi-hun. What I mean when I say originally is that both Young-sik and Jun-hee are shown wearing different vests throughout the game. A tweet by Oh No It's Kara pointed this out. After I saw this post, I watched the trailer and teaser over and over again, and looked for any inconsistencies in the vests or anything that seemed out of place, but I couldn't find anything. It wasn't until I stopped searching and started mindlessly scrolling through Twitter again that I conveniently came across this post by table_cat01, pointing out that Young-sik had a different vest in Squid Game Netflix's Instagram post. This led me to believe that Jun-hee handed over her vest so that Young-sik could be with his mother in the game, and also that she didn't have to be on the same team as Myung-gi. It makes sense that they would make the trade, seeing as though the blue team has it easier because they already have the keys at the beginning of the game, and because Jun-hee's pregnant. No matter how strong Jun-hee is, I don't really think she can throw down for a key 7 or 8 months pregnant. But who am I to say? Also, Young-sik would be forcefully separated from his mother again like he was in Mingle.
너 어디 다친 데는 없어? 어?
미안해.
아니야, 괜찮아. 다 살았으면 됐어. 아니야.
The next thing I want to bring up is the various rooms we see throughout the trailer and in the new teaser pictures released. There seem to be 8 distinct rooms, not counting the one that Jun-hee appears in, since it seems to just be the same VIP room we've seen him in before. Each of the rooms has its own unique designs resembling something out of a children's craft project. The first room we encounter in the trailer is painted black, with colorful monster dinosaur figures on the walls, where we find Myung-gi and player 233 trapped together. Then there's a light blue room painted with a rainbow in the background, where we find both Jun-hee and Hyunju together. The same room also appears in Gyumja's teaser poster. Next we see player 203 in a bright yellow room, which is also featured in Myung-gi's teaser poster. The shaman and Minsu are in a blue room with finger-painted trees, the same scene that pops up in Daeho's teaser poster. As we move through the teaser posters, we find Gi-hun in a room filled with neon crayon mountain designs, Hyunju in a yellow room with a crayon-drawn castle, Young-sik in a blue flower room, and Jun-hee in an origami aquarium room. It seems like the purpose of these rooms is to have one red player and one blue player up against each other. To do what? I don't really know yet. In Myung-gi's room, you see that player 223 has a key around his neck and is seemingly trapped in there. The same with the shaman and Minsu. Then later, we get a shot of Myung-gi looking shaken up with blood covering his face, while now outside of the room. Probably after he killed player 223 to go get his key. And then in the next clip, you see the shaman, you can tell by the bracelets that she always wears, smearing blood on the wall in a symbolic-looking way after leaving the room with Minsu. Jun-hee and Hyunju being in a room together makes sense since they started off on different teams, but I'm thinking they both peacefully left the room since they're both on the blue team and weren't looking to murder each other after their one-sided bonding in the bathroom. And neither of them are really eager to kill, so... Plus, the blood we see on Hyunju's face after she leaves the room was already on her face when she entered the room. I have no idea how this correlates to the maze aspect, or what the hell Daeho's doing, or how the opposing teams get in each other's rooms. I thought at first they started in these rooms, but it doesn't make sense because there's a clear difference between what they look like at the beginning of the game and when they're in the rooms with each other. So that's all I got from those images, and by the looks of it, Minsu's screwed, Jun-hee's probably fine, and Daeho is probably dead? I think so? We've gotten nothing else from him from the trailers or any other posts for this game. I know this might be their way of not giving anything away, but I really think this is the game he dies in after bringing back the PTSD from his wartime as a Marine. Which is what I thought would happen until I saw this post saying that these were the final players, and Daeho was included in it. So I'm really confused. I guess there's hope for Daeho after all?
Jump rope! Let's jump some rope.
So we don't get much from the trailer that I haven't already discussed. Sadly, Player 100 makes it to this game.
Boo,
I know.
kill him. Get out of here.
I
Stop.
don't make the rules. Many people have been theorizing that this is the game he'll thankfully die in after the shot we get of the dead bodies.
Whoa,
Finally,
he's
I was
got
something to
that guy
live
off
for.
my screen.
I think a tweet by @Leon_ describes this the closest by highlighting some of the dead bodies that look similar to the players that we already know. Most of this I'd say is spot on with what I'm theorizing, except for the prediction for Minsu. Because one, I really think he died in the house game. This could be an instance where framing makes it look like they're in the same room, but they're actually just in 2 different finger-painted rooms. This could be what's going on, but with all we know so far, I'd say he died there probably. Namgu has been just barely making it by this whole time, and if it weren't for Thanos and him giving him the drugs, he would still be shaking and freaking out this whole time. And now that Thanos is gone and he's got this abundance of drugs on him, I'd say he wouldn't last much longer in the games. It's mostly the same thing I think about Daeho's survival. They were both doing mostly fine because of the people they were close to cheering them on, but now that Jung-bae and Thanos are dead, these characters don't have much left to keep them going. Needless to say, I don't think he's making it much past this next game, and the blood on the dead body's pants only proves my point. The next thing I wanted to discuss is this voice line. This line comes after the pink lights come off in the game and Gi-hun makes it across. While he's helping people across, he asks the player what they're doing, probably hinting at someone's betrayal or somebody just simply getting in the way of Gi-hun trying to save other people's lives. There has been speculation on who this voice is, and as someone who has dyslexia and only speaks English besides Duolingo and high school Spanish, but that doesn't really help, I sadly watched the show in the American dub. so I'm not very familiar with any of the actors' or characters' original voices in Korean, besides the stuff from the interviews I've seen. And I wasn't originally going to talk about any of their voice lines in the trailer because of my lack of knowledge and lack of time to rewatch the show. But I saw a tweet by Jun-hee suspecting that the voice was Young-sik's, and I had to look into it. I compared the voice to a bunch of clips of Young-sik's voice, and they seem really similar.
게임하지. 얼마나 되나요? 거봐. 호박이 아니라 게임이잖아. 할머니 아니고 우리 엄마야. 이게 우리 엄마지.
Just in case, I compared it to another character's voice who has some potential for this portrayal, Byung-hun.
핸드폰이랑 지갑은 왜 가지고 가신 거죠? 그거 돌려주시죠. 그럼 핸드폰이라도 돌려주세요. 저 코인 시세 봐야 되거든요. 내가 당신들 그거 사라고 강제로 시켰어요?
I found his voice to be a lot softer and higher than the voice in the video. Young-sik had the same, tone and, harshness that the voice in the clip had that Byung-hun just doesn't match. Scratch everything I just said. Sorry for the bad audio quality, I'm not at my house right now, but I was just editing the video and taking a break watching TikTok, and I came across this video. That changes my entire point. The video was by @It'sThenNikki6, talking about why Minsu switched his vote from X to O in one of the Instagram collages. I wasn't originally going to talk about this because I finished recording the script after I found this out, and I was lazy and didn't want to theorize why. He talks about Minsu possibly taking Thanos' necklace from Namgu and possibly taking the drugs inside and using them to gain strength in the game. Well, at the end of that video, he proposed that the voice I was talking about in the trailer being Minsu's. And as Past Kelly explained, I never watched Season 2 in the Korean dub, so I had no idea what any of their Korean voices sounded like. I never thought to look into Minsu as a candidate because 1, he doesn't talk much and I thought he was gonna die in the house game, and 2, because his voice in the English dub is so much higher than the one in the trailer, and I didn't think the Korean one would be much different. But just listen to his Korean voice.
저기 누나는 안 무서워요? 여기 게임하는 거. 근데 왜 너는 쟤네랑 같이 해?
민 게임하지.
Changes some of the theories I had in the rest of the video, so I'm just gonna put some clips or dialogue on the screen for what I think changes. A lot of my points stand, so I'm not gonna re-record it entirely. I might be off in this theory, but I just wanted to bring it up because it plays a bit of a role in my next point.
The voting scene.
The next thing we're shown is a bunch of shots of the next vote. I'm theorizing this vote takes place after Jump Rope because the voice we heard might have been Young-sik's, and I'm thinking his death was during that game. I'm thinking he has to be dead at this point, and that's what causes Gi-hun's breakdown during the vote, and her son's lack of presence in the frame. Ever since Mingle, these two have been glued by the hip, and now you're telling me she's standing alone bawling her eyes out during a vote? Hell no, that kid is dead. Also, I tried to see when the vote would be by the order in which they voted, but that didn't help much since we don't know if they went from lowest to highest like they did for the original vote, or they switched it up and went from highest to lowest for the fun of it. The numbers on the players didn't help out much since they're all blurred out, but some numbers that aren't blurred out are the 3x and 5-0 in the back. This was something I came across in the trailer early on and was debating on whether the number was a 5 or a 9, but a recent Instagram post confirmed that those numbers are indeed a 3 and a 5. In my notes earlier, I wrote that the person in the back that already voted might be Namgu, because it kinda looks like him. I don't know, but I don't know, maybe Past Me was onto something and is just ahead of everyone, who knows. Watch it be right, and he becomes one of the finalists or something. You can quote me if I'm wrong, okay? He's surviving, man.
The VIPs. Get out of here.
So, who are the VIPs in the new season? Are they going to be the ones returning from season 1? Or are they all new? Sadly, the actors weren't announced for the VIPs in season 3 yet, so we have to do a little bit of digging. So, the season 1 cast of VIPs included VIP 1, the Lion Mask, VIP 2, the Buffalo Mask, VIP 3, the Deer Mask, VIP 4, the Panther Mask, the one who was knocked out by Jun-hee after trying to take advantage of him, VIP 5, the Bear Mask, VIP 6, the Eagle Mask, and VIP 7, who turned out to be Ilnam in the end. The season 3 cast of VIPs seems to be mostly different people, including a woman as a VIP, Who said women can't be awful people too? The cast currently consists of Buffalo Mask, Panther Mask, Lion Mask, Eagle Mask, and Bear Mask. The most we've gotten out of them is that we know that they'll be returning and the frontman will continue his job entertaining them. I'm thinking the VIPs are going to play a lot bigger role than in Season 1, since most of the season has tried to stay less focused on winning the games and more focused on ending them, but we have no confirmation on that yet.
The face reveal scene.
First of all, we see Gi-hun wearing his finalist suit again, the one we saw the pink soldiers carrying in during the teaser, and it looks like that he finally made it to the frontman's office.
456번. 그분이 부르셔.
The first shot we get is Gi-hun walking out of the elevator while the frontman sits in his chair facing the elevator to talk, which I think is such like a... I think it's just such a funny move to like open an elevator and you just see the person you need to talk to just sitting there, just sitting right there on a couch looking at you. It makes an impression, okay? I'll give him that, okay? Next, we see In-ho taking off his mask, presumably in front of Gi-hun, which when I first watched the trailer, because for some reason I don't trust anything, I thought that this might have been like a fake out or weird framing thing, making us think that he was going to take off his mask in front of Gi-hun during the season. But in a cast reaction, Dong-hyuk, the director and writer, confirms that he is indeed taking off the mask in front of Gi-hun, so we don't have to worry about that being a fake out.
정말 이 두 배우의 정말 최고의 연기를 그 장면에서 보실 수가 있습니다.
I'm thinking this is supposed to be a parallel to the scene Gi-hun had with Il-nam at the end of Season 1, where he talks about Gi-hun and how he saw the games in humanity. Which I think, just like this scene, is going to unintentionally give him that spark he needs to get back into fighting to end the games. Because at this point in the series, it looks like Gi-hun has lost most hope in humanity after watching all these players behave exactly like the ones in his last game. He wanted to convince them that winning the money isn't worth the price it takes to get it. Yes, Gi-hun had good morals, but he still came back to continue the games even after he voted to leave, because he had no other option. Or he could risk his life for a chance to win the money he needs to transform his life into something he could live in. He didn't have a choice in the matter. He was doing what he needed in order to survive. Even after leaving the game, he was left with this immense survivor guilt that prevented him from moving on, especially after having the knowledge that the game was still going on. As he found himself back in the game with no tracker and no way out, he tried to tell the players of the horrors of the games, that they needed to leave the game because they'd be murdering each other just for the entertainment of those above them. Just like Gi-hun in the first season, they already knew the stakes and what they were doing was wrong, but they didn't have a choice. For them, dying in this game would probably be freeing. It would be a chance to not worry about their debt anymore. They wouldn't have to barely make it by being followed around by debt collectors and loan sharks threatening to take away their physical rights. Not everyone was as lucky as Gi-hun to get out of that game alive, and fully knowing their 1 in 456 chance of survival. They took that because it's the only option they had. We could see his loss of hope while he's handcuffed again during this vote. The emptiness in his eyes, not even looking at the votes, because he already knows that he's not going to get out of this place again. Even when a new victor leaves these games, he probably believes that they'll be restless like him, or maybe worse in his eyes. They'll be content, fine with what they've done because it's what they needed to do in order to survive. Hwang Dong-hyuk's original purpose for single-handedly writing and directing Squid Game was to share his own experiences of poverty and to open people's eyes to the lack of choice when it comes to poverty through the experiences of Gi-hun. If you want to hear more about this topic and how corporations stripped away a lot of the meaning of Squid Game, I would very highly recommend watching Jack Saint's video titled The Red Washing of Squid Game. He explains this idea so much better than I ever could and brings up a lot of good points that I don't have time to cover in this video. Anyway, back on topic. When Gi-hun is called to the frontman's office, you can see the hope in his eyes that maybe he could confront him like he set out to do with his crew. I can only imagine the betrayal he feels when In-ho takes off that mask to reveal young Il. I can only assume that they don't just bro-hug it out, seeing by their tear-streamed faces, and the weird blood on Gi-hun's face after he leaves that room that wasn't there.
The gang's journeys. Let's end the Squiddy games.
One of the things I haven't mentioned yet, because I'm assuming it happens alongside the plot of the games, like the first season, is the eventual team-up of Newell, Jun-hee, and Kyung-suk, or 246, or better known in my notes as Cancer Dad, for some reason. These three people are doing what Season 1 Jun-hee was trying to do. Get the police and have these games ended. And also, find In-ho, but he already did that. During Gi-hun's failed raid, Kyung-suk ended up getting shot and died, which we found out recently from an Instagram post and a hint in the trailer that confirms that he did not actually die. These parts of Noel's journey are pretty fast and vague, but I'll break them down for you. We see a shot of her crawling through the vents, which is conveniently the perfect size for someone her and Se-byuk's size, and for some reason a foolproof way of sneaking around these games without getting caught. We also see Noel looking in the room with all the files of the games, the room where Jun-hee found In-ho's past game experience and win in 2015. On that topic, we got an Instagram post not too long ago about a flashback scene that's going to happen with In-ho talking to Il-nam after he wins the game, I assume. One note from this image is that In-ho's hair is clearly wet, similar to how Gi-hun's hair was wet after he won the games. I'm thinking that that's not just a coincidence, and I think this calls back to a line from the Dear Mask VIP in Season 1. He said, "Good rain knows the best time to fall," or how he said it. I think that we're gonna see the same renewal and rebirth that we saw from Gi-hun in the last game in In-ho. This flashback could show us why Gi-hun holds such a special place in his heart, and why he not only let him back into the games, but also decided to play them with him. Or he's just a simp. That's also on the table. Back on topic. The next shot we see is of Noel out of the vent and back outside on the island. We earlier got a post on January 30th, also on the Instagram, showing us the same moment. But now we know how she probably got out through the vents, unlike Jun-hee, who got caught using one of the air tanks and swimming out. Then, most recently in a Netflix trailer of their upcoming shows this year, we got some new footage of Noel fighting the officer in what looks like the same elevator that Gi-hun used to get to the front man's room. And while Noel's trying to get out, Jun-hee's trying to get back in. We see that he swam to the island in scuba gear and left his crew behind, after he inevitably finds out that the captain has been working for In-ho and that's the reason he hasn't found the island yet. We then get a few more shots of him breaking into various rooms, even one seemingly in the same room as Noel and the frontman. We can only assume that they meet up after trying to seek for the same goal. Does this end up working? Maybe, maybe not. I guess they didn't reveal much in the trailer, like Dong-hyuk said in a previous interview.
가 찍어놓고 재밌어 보인다고 하니까 좀 웃기긴 하는데 잘 만드신 것 같아요. 정말 그 어떤 많은 걸 드러내지 않으면서도 시즌 3에서 어떤 기대되는 호기심을 자극하는 지점들을 잘 뽑아서 그런 것들로 구성된 트레일러 같고.
But I do have a possible ending to look into. So there have been some rumors going around and some questionably sourced articles about a show called Squid Game America. It would basically be an English spin-off of the series without Gi-hun at the center of it. And as much as I love this show, I really don't want the story to go past Season 3. There is no need for this to be more marketed out, especially after the Squid Game Challenge being a thing. I don't know, because of things like this, the message just becomes tainted from the tragic story of Gi-hun, the gambler, trying to fight for his life in these games, into like a more marketable game. I know Squid Game has been one of the highest streamed shows in America, but I don't really think this is needed. Especially after Hwang Dong-hyuk said he released Season 2 mostly just for the money. Not because he thought the story needed a Season 2. Anyway, the point lies in this image of Jun-hee looking at the Squid Game card. I got this theory from an account called Vexif Going Insane Over Squid Game, predicting that Jun-hee thought he stopped the games, moves to America after his brother's probable death. He tries to get away from everything that reminds him of his brother and the games, but he finds this card somewhere. And then he finally realizes that just because he stopped In-ho and everything on the island doesn't mean that the game's ended. I think that this ending would be a smooth transition into the show no one asked for, but I don't really want Squid Game America, to be honest. But hopefully that never happens.
The marketing in In-hun.
Ever since the release of Squid Game Season 2, there has been talk about a pairing that has been weirdly closer than they should in this situation. All over my TikTok and Twitter without even searching for it, I've seen hundreds of posts of people shipping Gi-hun and In-ho, also known as In-hun or 457. During my watch-through, I noticed some weird tension between these two characters. It seemed out of place, but I don't know, I didn't really think much of it. I thought In-ho would absolutely hate Gi-hun's guts or just seem fascinated by why he's willingly putting himself back into the games. And I don't know about you. If I found out that there was somebody who was this passionate about stopping the games I run, I would not be looking at them like this. There's also this weird one-sided beef he had with Jung-bae because Gi-hun was talking to him instead of In-ho most of the time. In-ho obviously ended that feud with Jung-bae really quickly, but still. And if this pairing was just a ton of edits, some romantic glances or touches, I would not be talking about this right now. I'm here to talk about the show and the trailer and season 3. Maybe they're just pulling a Sherlock or something like that, and calling them gay every chance they get. But the director just seems to be in on it as well.
되게 기훈에게 집착한다고 생각해요. 그거 보셨어요? 막 딴들이 만든 영상 중에 서로 막 이렇게 키스도 하고 막 그런 약간 좀 에로틱한 느낌들이 있더라. 이렇게 보니까 정말 약간 사랑의 눈빛 같기도 하고. 약간 그거 보신 적 있으시죠? 있습니다. 약간 충격받으신 것 같은데 병원 선배한테 그걸 보내줬는데 약간 충격받으시더라고.
And the ship doesn't just stop there. There have been numerous Instagram posts and tweets about this couple on main Netflix accounts. Like this post from Netflix UK all the way back on March 21st. It's a slideshow of just a bunch of Netflix's beloved couples. And then, on the last slide, is a little quote with our Squid Game pairing, Gi-hun and In-ho. Not Jun-hee and Myung-gi or any other confirmed romantic couples. It's just the protagonist and antagonist, chillin'. Even the quote from Dane Poetry, I would like to repeat every mistake as long as it leads me back to you. Yeah, I think about my enemies like that. Yeah, you know what they say. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I don't think they're meant to be that close, though. This might just be In-ho trying to live up to his name, but I don't know, it's weird. There's also been this clear focus on them in the marketing of the show, which I get because I think they're going to be the center of the show and the main points during this season. During interviews and red carpet events, they're always seen together, and most of the time without the main cast, and they're always in their signature colors, black and white. Do I think these characters will become romantically involved? Not really. I think most of this drama and half confirmation is just from the marketing department noticing something that the fans like and playing into it. I think the most we're gonna get is a few scenes like the unmasking scene where there's some tension, but it'll be left open-ended. Squid Game isn't really a show that focuses much on romance, and if it would happen, it would be for the growth of the characters and the plot. It would make sense for In-ho to have growth in his character from looking up and loving Gi-hun on some level. Possibly romantic, but it doesn't have to be. And for Gi-hun, it would make sense for him to gain back his humanity and learn to forgive In-ho, just like he forgave Sung-woo. In-ho admitting his wrongs and relating to Gi-hun only on a level they can understand is something they're bound to do from all the setup in these seasons. Not just from all their parallels and how they're written, but neither of them could live normal lives after the games ended. Even after winning the prize they desperately sought after, they lost more than they gained along the way. They both went home and found that the reason they were trying to make this money was no longer there for them. Only Gi-hun could have the knowledge and empathy to see himself in this broken man who has done horrible things. But in the end, they're the same. The same people who went through the same experience and came out completely different afterwards. And to have these characters relate and grow from each other's experiences, it would be a good arc for them to go through together.
Without spoiling it, what's one word you would use for season 3?
용서. Climax.
Wow.
I don't have much more of a conclusion besides wait for season 3 to come out, but I'm really excited to see where Dong-hyuk takes the story, and I hope the next season doesn't turn out to be some marketable content that takes away from the show's original meaning. But I hope you enjoyed my deep dive into the content we've gotten to promote season 3 of Squid Game. This is my first video on the channel and first analysis video essay thing I've ever done. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video and theories for next season. I hope I could post more content like this in the future. It's been really fun to research and write about something I'm passionate about. So I hope you enjoyed.